Welcome to the Dream Journal. From the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, the Dream Journal is a weekly show where we explore the power of nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with listeners like you.
In the house behind, the life you find is something understood. So there's love, those vital
A dream can be meaningful even if you don't know what it means. Why dreams matter and how to use them to improve our waking lives. Meet Canadian author and journalist Karen Van Kampen, who will share with us her Dreamer's Toolkit, offering tips on how to rewrite nightmares and guide dreams. Also, the healing potential of anesthesia dreams. I am your host, Katherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. So I'm going to start with a little personal share. I am fresh off the IASC conference. Wow, what an amazing thing. It was just a fantastic gathering of dreamers. And I am excited about next year Atlanta over Memorial Day weekend, and it's going to be a blast. But I want to share with you my conference dream, the dream that I was working the entire time there. And I may have shared it already because it's a really important dream to me. In the dream, a woman is standing in front of the house where I was born, where I grew up, and she reaches into a bush and pulls out, and she pulls out her hand, and clinging to her hand, holding of their own free will, are birds. A flock of little 5, 6, 7 little colorful birds, and they're just standing there. And as I explore the dream, I get to imagine myself as one of the birds and feel the safety of being behind the bush, as safety and innocence, and then coming out from behind the bush. So much of my journey with IASD has been coming out from behind the bush and bringing my innocence with me. So that's my dream share.
That's amazing.
Oh yeah, it was fabulous. I got to explore in several workshops, and then in the dream ball, I dressed up with a costume with little birds clipped all over my shirt and my hat.
Oh, that's great.
And it was just wonderful to really just immerse myself in the bird nest. And what it means, I don't know. We don't need meanings. We just need to have I just want to feel what the dream is offering. And so
exactly.
Yeah. So
I'm just as interested in all the fictions that our dreaming brain comes up with, as well as the reflections of my waking life. It's always so interesting to think, how did my brain come up with that?
I know there's something magical about that, and something I get to trust. There's something also biological and scientific, because everybody dreams, and there's value in dreaming, or we wouldn't still be dreaming after millions of years of evolution.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me read the bio. Karen Van Kampen. So good to have you on the show. Karen,
it's great to be here.
Yes. I don't think I read your bio. No, Karen Van Kampen is a Canadian author and journalist who specializes in health and science. Her latest book is instant national bestseller, The Brain Never Sleeps: Why We Dream and What It Means for Our Health. Her fascination with dreams began at the age of 9. She was her father's first sleep lab assistant, helping him practice electrode hookup and testing. And her webpage is KarenVanKampen.com. Kampen was also with the K, KarenVanKampen.com. Okay, so Karen, you started early with your father at age 9? That's amazing.
Yes, I was 9 years old, and he was starting to open up his first sleep lab in Toronto. So I grew up in Oshawa, which is about 45 minutes it's a small town small city outside of Toronto. And he would take me in, and I have all these amazing memories. We would drive in, and then I would go to his lab and help him. And I used to be able to just sleep at any time. So I did what I did best. He would say, okay, sleep, to try and test out the equipment. Yeah. To make sure that everything worked.
Hey, and skill.
I don't anymore. That was when I was young. Mm. And then I used to help him with when he was doing the electrode hookup and testing and testing everything. So that sort of was my beginning into the sleep world. He never did any dream research, but it really got me thinking about the importance and the value and benefits of sleep. And then I read a few years ago about how we're potentially as dream deprived as we are sleep deprived, which got me, tuned back into dreaming and starting to think about all the often overlooked benefits of dreams.
Right. Okay. And so you're a journalist and you do many different topics on science and health, right? So
Yes.
so this is one that's kind of like coming back to your roots. What other topics have you explored?
So I've done pieces on regenerative medicine, a lot about mental health and wellness.
Uh-huh.
And so for me, dreams just really is intertwined and interwoven in that. And I was so fascinated to learn about this. There's this intrinsic connection between our dreams and our mental health, and it just makes so much sense to me. If you're lying in bed and you're ruminating, or if you're worrying, it'll affect your sleep, and then also potentially affect your dreams. So I'm really interested in to understand us, like the whole person, and how our waking lives and our dreaming lives and all different states of consciousness affect our mental health and well-being.
Okay. Okay. And it's interesting, the title of the book, The Brain Never Sleeps. Like,
Right.
of course, our consciousness sleeps, the consciousness goes away, and maybe
Right.
parts of our brain sleep, or say a little more about that. That's fascinating.
So when I was speaking with different dream researchers, I learned that at different times of the sleep cycle, different times of the night when we're sleeping, there's certain areas of the brain that are more active and less active. So, but it was really for me sort of eye-opening, if you want to say that,
Sure.
uh, when one of the researchers said to me, like there's no sharp divide between our waking and our dreaming lives or our sleeping lives.
Yeah.
The brain never sleeps. It never turns off. It never shuts off. And at certain times of the night, the brain is just as active as when we're awake. So that really got me thinking, reframing how I saw sleep and dreams, and all of the work that our dreaming brain is doing, or our sleeping brain is doing,
Right.
without us knowing.
Hmm. Right. So what is some of the work that the brain is doing while we sleep? Tell us.
So I was really interested about memory consolidation. So how dreams help us consolidate and strengthen memories. And I was fascinated because one of the questions that I was really interested in is, why is it that, say, last night I decided to dream about someone from my childhood or someone from high school or something that happened? Why did I choose last night? And if you can't make that connection in your mind, if there's not a connection that you can make to try and understand it. And it led me to, there's this one theory, it's called the next up model of dreaming. And it's this whole idea that to strengthen memories, we make associations. Let's say we have a new experience, or we have new knowledge. And to strengthen that memory, we're going to try, one idea is that we try and associate it, do these fresh, creative associations with memories that are already stored in our Rolodex of memories. So then it connects with something that happened potentially far deep in our past. So I was thinking, hey, maybe that's why there was something that, I might not even realize what the connection is
Mm-hmm.
with that past, really deep in my past, some past memory. But maybe there's this really unique and fresh association that our dreaming brain is making.
Right. Well,
So I
like,
found that
look,
really neat.
well, like showing up outside of the house I grew up in this dream, you know,
Right.
there's
And the
something there. And
birds.
the birds behind the bush, like, I don't have a specific memory, but if I imagine myself behind the bush, it's a really safe place. And
Right.
and growing up wasn't always safe for, well, any of us really. There's
Yeah.
always ways we have to make our way in the world, even when, no matter how beautiful your childhood wasn't. But there's something about this that my mind wanted to go back to, or my
Right.
subconscious, or something that to help me process the past, the
And
childhood.
then when you have those dreams and you hold, and you take them with you into the next day, or even, much longer later, and you try and incorporate it into your waking life. I love thinking about how we can do that.
Yeah, I do too. And I'm glad we're on the same page about that. I wanted to ask you about your dream salon. You said you actually
Oh,
attended it, and tell me
right.
about the dream salon. What does that mean, and what was that like for you?
It was Honestly, it was such a unique and special experience. And it totally, gave me a completely different perspective on my own dreams.
Mm.
So it's Mark Blagrove and Julia Lockhart. And
they're great.
what it is it's a dream sharing session. And it's a dream salon, and it's fashioned after the salons in the 1920s in Paris. And so what happened was I gathered different dream researchers, friends, a couple colleagues, and we all came together. And what happens is a person shares their dream with the group, and then you get different perspectives of everyone in the dream salon. And at the same time, while you're sharing, it's this very collective experience. So I share my dream, we get other people's questions and thoughts, and you can take them on however you want to, pursue them yourself. And then at the same time, Julia was painting my dream.
Oh.
And so with permission from the publisher, she takes a double page spread from Freud's interpretation of dreams, and then she paints on that double page spread like it's a canvas.
Oh.
And it was so fascinating. And then you look at different words that just happened to be coming out and how they would be incorporated into what my dream was about. And then she would incorporate, it was very collective. So then we were all talking about it, and we would get different people's ideas, and it was unbelievable. So the painting is now in my office, and I just love to look at it.
Oh, that's cool. And so you got more insight in your dream through this experience of other people reflecting back to you. Yeah.
And things that now looking back, there were certain things that were so obvious, but I never thought about it. And when someone brings up a different perspective or a question, I just feel like it's this mind shift. And then you look at yourself differently because you're looking at this dream that you created for yourself, and you're trying to figure it out. And it was just so interesting. And it's it builds empathy and connection. There's the different, studies showing how dream sharing, it can really create this connection with people, because it almost feels, for me, it's like, it feels safe to talk about your dreams. Maybe we don't always want to talk about things in our waking lives, but when we can talk about our dreams, that's a different way that we can connect with people.
Right. And there's something about that that I'm of course very passionate about. At the dream conference, I hosted a morning dream group, which means I met 4 mornings in a row with basically the same people, but it varied from 15 to 20 people. And so in 1 hour, you don't have time to go in depth on any one dream. But what I did, and I've been playing around with this, and it seems to be a really, really powerful way of sharing dreams, is just have each person speak their dream out loud, just a dream moment, not a long novel, and have them feel into what's happening in the dream. No questions, no crosstalk, just speak the dream in the present tense as if it's happening right now. And the rest of us just sit there and we imagine the dream's happening to us. And that's like one person, then you go to the next person. So you can do 20 people in 20 minutes, and people get a lot of insight just by speaking the dream out loud. So
right, exactly. So that's what we did as well, to imagine if it was my dream, this is what I would potentially be thinking about.
Right.
Because
that's valuable too. Like so there's kind of 2 extremes. I have several different groups, and they're all a little bit different. And in one of the groups, we have one person share a dream, and then we spend the entire time on that one dream, people giving reflections, and if it were my dream, and then the dreamer still gets to choose what's important to them and what's meaningful to them. And that's incredibly rich, not only for the dreamer, but for the people in the group, because they get their own reflections. And then I have other groups like this IASD group where everybody shares one dream and nobody reflects on it. And that's powerful too. It seems like any way you share a dream, it's helpful.
To be in the room together and to do that sharing. And yes, definitely.
Right. And I shouldn't say to anybody though, because there are people who will want to tell you, oh, your dream obviously means X, Y, Z. And you don't want someone to tell you what your dream means.
Right, exactly. Like you might say, if it were my dream, I might think about this, or I might question this. That's sort of how we.
Right. That's kind of dream etiquette.
Yeah, that's great.
And I was recently at the Hayden conference too, and they have a similar process. And they use, instead of if it were my dream, they use the phrase in my dream, like in my version of the dream.
Got it. Right.
But it's some phrase that connotes that I'm not trying to tell you what your dream's about, but as I imagine this dream, this is what it means to me.
Yeah. And it was so interesting because I have this, not as much now after researching the book, but I used to have this tendency that I would just I saw it as kind of explain away my dreams. So if I woke up and I thought of something and I could make a connection between my dream and something in my waking life, I would say to myself, oh, that's the only reason why I dreamt it. But if you dig deeper and you start thinking about different potential reasons, it's really interesting.
Right, right. I like to say that if you come up with, if your dream is one thing, then it's like taking a pin and sticking it to a map. This beautiful butterfly, but now it's dead. So
Right.
let the butterfly have multiple meanings. But you bring up
Right.
the point about waking life connections. I wonder if you want to say a little more about why
Sure.
do we even bother to do this dream process? How does it help us in our waking life?
So when I learned that oftentimes our dreams, they're almost like a highlight reel of our waking preoccupations and concerns. And so, right, that's kind of how I started to look at
That's
it.
a funny way to think about it. I like it.
Right. So then and so maybe different, if something's weighing on your mind, things that are unsettled in your mind might continue to show up in your dreams. Or even if it's, say, a person that maybe you that you feel unsettled about something. And so I always think, we can look at what's happening in our dreams. And one of the dream researchers said it's really insightful to then, if you keep a dream diary, and then you actually connect it to what's happening in your waking life. They use the example of when they're getting prepared for a grant, or when their competency is being tested, they'll have these exam stress dreams will keep coming up. So it's really interesting to kind of chart your dreams and say, what was happening at that time? Is there a connection? What can I look at? And what is that, other realm of thought and experience, dreams, what's happening there that I should maybe tune into and pay a bit more attention to?
Right. Because I often find them surprised by my dreams, and the dreamers who come to me. It's like they may think, oh, I'm really frustrated by this thing that's happening at work, and it's really pissing me
Right.
off, and like this is what I
Right.
want to focus on. But then the dream comes and it's all about your relationship. And like
Right.
sometimes the things that we were kind of pushing aside are what surface in the dreams.
That's right. And I learned when I was speaking with different researchers that the whole idea that if we try and suppress a thought, there was this study, and if you try and suppress a thought, it actually they found that it had a greater chance of it would rebound in their dreams.
Wow.
And what was really interesting was that it wasn't to do with the feeling of the thought. So it could be a very neutral thought, like a white bear. So if you're trying not to think of something, so it's not that. So they did it with a crush and a non-crush, someone that they had a crush and someone they didn't. And what they found was that it actually wasn't about the emotional salience of the thought. It was actually the act of suppression that makes it rebound. I thought that was
That's
so
fascinating.
cool.
That is
Yeah. So
totally
it's kind of
fascinating.
like, it made me think, okay, you've got to deal with the things that are weighing on your mind before you lie down at night, right?
Right. Because they'll be coming up in your dreams.
Right.
Right. Because sometimes I'm so effective at suppressing my thoughts. I'm not even aware I'm suppressing them. They're so deep.
Me too.
But they come up bit by bit in the dreams.
Right. Me too.
I love that. That's pretty amazing. And so I guess I want to I want to save the anesthesia dreams until a little later. So I'm going to hold off on
Sure.
this because I'm very curious about that. But I wanted to talk about some simple and effective ways to rewrite nightmares or bad dreams. And just as background, like I used to think, oh, the dream is sacred, I should never change it. But there's more and more evidence that changing a dream can be helpful.
Right. So I learned about that. So I used to have this falling dream. I've had it since I was a kid. And it was just this really simple dream, but I would have it on and off since I was really, really little. And I was walking along this sort of rusted beam of this old scaffolding of this building. And just as I'm walking, it's almost like a tightrope. And I would lose my footing and I would just start to fall. And it was always just before I hit the ground, I would wake up. So I brought that to a dream researcher that I talked to and said, like, is there any way can I do anything about it? Because well, it's not a nightmare, but there's so many people who it was an unsettling dream, a bad dream.
Yeah, I wouldn't like it.
And right. And then I found, there's so many people that suffer from nightmares. And oftentimes we don't think that there's anything that we can do about it. But there's something that I learned, it's called imagery rehearsal therapy. So during the day, I didn't know about this. And so during the day, it's hard because you don't want to think about a bad dream. But if you think about the dream, you take some time and then you try and rewrite the upsetting parts. So for me, it was the ending, but it could be any detail. Like we all get to choose what's upsetting to us, and then you try and rewrite it.
Okay.
And then for say 2 minutes a day,
Mhm.
you practice this new version of your dream. So it's almost, I saw it as sort of you're giving yourself another way out the
Okay.
next time you have this dream.
Uh-huh.
And then you're almost more equipped, you're better prepared for when you have the dream.
Uh-huh. So
And then
did you rewrite yours?
I did. So when I asked, I said, okay, so this was when I was trying to understand it. And I said, so should I try not to fall? And he said, no, that's the ultimate avoidance strategy. You don't want to do that.
Okay.
So I said, okay, so how about if I imagined this soft plush mattress and then I fell safely onto that? And he said, okay, so try that. So I did that. And then it was a while. I mean, I was always, during the writing of this book, I was thinking about my dreams so much, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it took a while. I don't know how long it was until I had the dream again, but I did. And then I imagined falling safely, and it was comforting and safe. And as of right now, like I haven't had the same dream again, but who knows, right? So it was really interesting to try and do that.
And so you practice it for like 2 minutes before sleep. Is that what you were saying? That's like
during the day.
During the day.
During the day. And I learned that kids can do this. You could do it by, say, drawing. If it's a young child, they could try and reimagine their dream by, say, drawing a new dream scenario. Or you could even do, say, voice recording or something like, so to revisit it, right? So during the day. And it just took a couple of weeks to show the benefit in this one study. It's really interesting.
That's fascinating. They sometimes call that rescripting a dream, and there's more. I've had several people on over the years. I'd love to revisit this now that I feel like I'm finally coming around to this is really totally valid.
Right. Me too. That's what. Yeah.
And
it felt like.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just thinking it could just, if we can try and do this, it's a straightforward technique that we can all try if there's something that we want to rewrite. So I found that really empowering for people, especially if they're suffering from really bad nightmares.
Absolutely. Even like PTSD, people who have post-traumatic stress syndrome, who have repetitive nightmares of the trauma, that they can rewrite the script. And it's interesting, our conversation about suppressing ideas, suppressing thoughts. And in some ways, it takes a lot of courage to do this technique, because you have to bring the dream up and actually see the dream, imagine the dream, and then pick a point where you want to change it. And so I think a lot of people, like certainly my nightmares, a lot of times I'm like, I don't want to look at that dream. I don't ever want to look at that dream, but that just pushes it down into a place where it's going to come up all the more. So it takes like a courage of acknowledging this dream. And yeah, it's horrific. I don't like it. It's terrifying. And yet there's something I can do, make a change. And so maybe that's part of the way that why this therapy works, is because it allows it to come into consciousness, the details of the nightmare.
Right. And if you are suffering, say, from traumatic nightmares, PTSD, I mean, doing this with the help of a health professional is so important.
Absolutely. And there are professionals who do the IRT, image rehearsal therapy. And it's sometimes I've heard sometimes this just takes a few sessions to get the technique and get the support and learn about dreams. And that it's incredibly valuable. I've done this technique a little bit with some of my people, and it is helpful. It is helpful. Usually people are like on a journey with me, and it takes a while before they start bringing me the really horrific nightmares, because sometimes I always give people permission to say, I don't want to talk about that dream. Fine. Right. We don't have to talk about it. And
you have to be ready.
Yeah, you have to be ready.
Yeah. And you might not want, I completely understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. Letting it come around. I mean, even though the dream, if you don't want to look at that dream, don't look at it, but don't pretend it didn't happen. Like I like to say, like surround it with light, put it over there and go, okay, I'll deal with you later. Like, because
that's great. And then it's there. I've acknowledged it, like I'm not ready. Right.
Yeah. I don't want to look at the details yet, but there's something there, and I just trust that that's going to unfold in its own time when I'm ready.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So that is a powerful approach to use with nightmares.
Yeah.
So let's go one more topic, and then we'll go to our break, which is that I want to talk a little bit about your ideas or what you've learned about dream engineering and using technology for dreaming.
It's so fascinating. It's this it's the next frontier, it seems like, in dream research. And the ways that you can use technology to guide your dreams. So using, say, voice recording. So I tried this, and it was amazing. So with the help of Adam Haar, dream researcher. And so I was set up at home, and I was able to try this my own sort of ad hoc kind of dream experiment. And so as this is one example of dream engineering. And as you're falling asleep, to kind of nudge you to keep your thoughts on something that you want to focus on, to try and guide those initial first dream thoughts as you're falling asleep into sleep onset.
Like something you're concerned about that you want to dream about? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. No. For me, I just wanted to, or it could be anything. Say you want to come up with a creative idea, or maybe you're brainstorming a new idea, anything, because it's sleep onset has been found. They're calling it a creative sweet spot. So you have that really interesting, I sort of looked at it as you have enough awareness as you're drifting off to follow your thoughts, those sort of dreamy first thoughts. But then you have this suspension of everything that's going on around you. You're almost letting go. It just feels like this letting go, and your mind starts to wander, and your thoughts get dreamy, and they become more abstract and creative. But as you're just falling asleep, you can still have that awareness to remember those thoughts. And then what happens is, and so there's this app called Dust. It's amazing. And then so you can do this, and then the voice recordings will play at certain times during sleep onset to say. And for me, it was a recording of my voice, and it said I was trying to dream of a tree because that was what they did for their study. And so it said, remember to think of a tree. So if your thoughts are veering too far off, then you say, oh, okay, I've got to go back and start thinking about a tree.
Okay.
And yeah, it was really neat. And so you can have all these abstract thoughts of trees, and it could be, I started thinking about this log cabin that our family used to own in these woods, and we got lost one day. And so your thoughts tumble from one into the next. So it gets really dreamy and creative. It was really neat.
But then how do you remember them? Because I usually lose all the thoughts I have when I'm falling asleep. Do you speak them? Yeah.
In this situation, it said, what were you thinking? So there was a certain number of minutes. And then the last recording was, tell me what you were thinking, what your thoughts were. And then, you wake up because you're sort of in that dreamy sleep onset first few minutes stage. And then you wake up, and then I wrote down my thoughts.
Okay.
It's really neat.
Oh,
yeah. So that's one example. Yeah.
Okay.
So dream engineering is this unbelievable new sort of frontier, and all of the research that's happening, and, with lucid dreaming, and how now you can communicate between the dreamer and someone, and say the technician, and all of that research. It's unbelievable.
Okay. Yeah. I love how a lot of this is really entering the world of science. It's not just woo.
Yes, okay. Exactly. And so in this one instance, it was at Northwestern, and Karen Conkley and Ken Paller's lab. And then so they had that. It was unbelievable. When I read this, I couldn't believe it. So they, randomly generated, like after the dreamer was lucid and did the practiced signals to say that he was lucid, right? Exactly. The eye movement, right? And then, which has been done for many, many decades, right? And then there was this random math question that was asked, and then he answered it. And he answered it twice correctly. So that was unbelievable.
So it's actually able to communicate with people while they're lucidly dreaming.
Right. So back and forth, not just saying I'm lucid, but then to have the two-way communication.
Oh, okay. That is fascinating. That Ken Paller was one of the keynotes for the ISD conference I've just come from.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So there'll be recordings of that out soon. He's fabulous.
Oh, great. I'll take a look.
Okay. So we need to take a quick break, and our guest today is Karen Van Kampen, and her webpage is karenvankampen.com. Her new book is called The Brain Never Sleeps, Why We Dream and What It Means for Our Health. And you will want to stay tuned, because after the break, I'm going to ask her about anesthesia dreams, which have been taken on the adjective healing dreams. So I'm very curious about this idea of dreaming while under anesthesia and how that can be healing process. Because if I'm going under anesthesia, I need healing. Definitely, there's something happening. So I'm going to ask her that after the break. So stay tuned. Next week will be a live show with my dear dream friend, Jarette Bouillon. We'll be talking about the impact of coercive control and how people's dreams have been responding to our current situation. The Dream Journal is broadcast live from the KSQD studios in Santa Cruz and co-broadcast live in San Jose by KCXU, also up at KOWS in Sonoma, and we are podcast everywhere on the Monday after the show. Full-length videos of the conversations can be found on Spotify and also on my YouTube page at Experiential Dreamwork. We will be right back. In the meantime, I want to thank you all for your generous ratings and reviews for the pod and for sharing episodes on your social media. To help us spread interest in dreaming, follow us by looking for hashtag the Dream Journal and at Experiential Dreamwork on your favorite social media. And be sure to check out our video versions of the podcast on my YouTube page at Experiential Dreamwork. But most importantly, consider telling your friends about the show. You just might find your next dream sharing buddy. Today's guest is Karen Van Kampen, and we are talking about her book, The Brain Never Sleeps, and what is it doing there if it's not sleeping, and so much more. And I want to start with after the break of anesthesia dreams. What is that all about? Who knew you dream while we're under anesthesia?
So I didn't know anything about this when I first started my research, and at the end of interviews, I would always ask, what are you excited about, or what's new, what's happening? And then, so I heard about anesthesia dreams, and I was so excited about it. I actually, when I was first doing the book, I didn't even have it in my book structure, my book proposal. And then I found out about it, and it's so unbelievable. So basically, a group of physicians, scientists, dream researchers, anesthesiologists at Stanford are working on research on anesthesia dreams. So basically, I was speaking with Harrison Chow, and he's an anesthesiologist. And what he found, this came out of observations from the OR. And so he would be adjusting the anesthesia to create this slow, peaceful awakening to, say, reduce nausea when people, and have a peaceful awakening out of anesthesia. But what he found was that patients started describing these hyper real dreams, these vivid dream experiences what they were having. And no matter what they were dreaming about, the dream experience would turn positive. So let's say that if they revisited an upsetting situation, they could do it in this calm and peaceful state and have sort of rewrite their emotional reaction to the dream. So one way of explaining it, he said, imagine an EEG in the OR. There's an EEG, and imagine that you're tuning it, that there's all these different frequencies, like say on a radio. Okay. And imagine you're trying to tune the radio to, if frequency 50 is when people wake up, you're trying to tune it to, say, frequency 48. So just under the level of consciousness. And so they've discovered that it's this calm and peaceful state. And I spoke with different people who had these dreams, and they said, honestly, they were like transformative. Wow. So one way of looking at it is for, say, PTSD, it could be seen as exposure therapy on fast forward. So right. So some people are revisiting, certain people revisited, say, a traumatic experience, and they're revisiting it over and over and over again. But then there's that positive ending that this one person had. And then it was almost this loop that they had under anesthesia and had this same newly scripted dream while they're under anesthesia. So it's this healing power
Mm.
of this transformative dream experience. It's unbelievable.
Wow. I have so many questions.
Right. And
right.
it makes you rethink how potentially anesthesia, like one of the potential uses. So imagine
Exactly.
how many, right. So imagine how many people are, going under anesthesia every day around the world, and potentially how many people are trying to deal with, say, potentially traumatic or different things. What are the possibilities,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's I'll just share with you. My mom had surgery yesterday, and I talked to her. Oh, actually, it was Thursday through morning. She had surgery, and I talked to her yesterday, and she was a little confused. I mean, she's 93, so
Right.
that's intense to be
Yeah.
going under anesthesia at any age, but especially at that age. But she was talking about being at the beach. And
Right.
the place, the Seabrook Island, where we like to go for vacation. She was talking about being at this beautiful beach, and I was just,
Oh.
I'm just playing along and going like, "Isn't it so beautiful here? The water's so warm." And she says, "Oh, it's amazing. I just love it here." I wonder if there's a little leftover
Right.
anesthesia going on there. Interesting.
And so that's one example. I was told that, if like, say someone's dreaming of a beach and like the grains of sand are magnified, or the blue of the ocean is this like, hyper real color. And so it can be very intense and vivid.
Yeah.
And so there's all of this research happening. It's in Boris Heifetz's lab at Stanford. And I'm so grateful to all the time they took chatting with me about this, and Pillar and Sika. And it's just unbelievable with the what they're doing now. And
It reminds me of,
yeah,
go ahead.
sorry. No, I was just going to say they're studying it. So outside of the OR as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, that was kind of where I was going too. It's like it reminds me of like the healing power of psychedelic trips, like even
Exactly.
ketamine, like literally ketamine is something they use as anesthesia, I believe, or at least in the past they have.
So we talked about when I spoke with Boris Heifetz, and we talked about the experiential piece of psychedelic assisted medicine, right? So it's that experience that you can walk away with, and that can be very transformative and healing. And we talked about the parallels there. It's really interesting.
Right. And yeah, it's interesting you say that they're always positive, like nobody wakes up
or usually.
Okay, but
usually positive is what they found when I was speaking with them.
Oh, okay.
Right.
But it does seem like there ought to be therapeutic uses for this, or especially if it's a very light anesthesia. There's not an ethical concern if you don't have to put somebody under very deeply. It's just like a really light dose, and maybe with some suggestions and intentions, and
that's what I'm interested.
Guidance.
I wonder, yes, where it's going to go from studying right now, the research, and then how can we apply this?
Right.
And really have the benefits that people can, the general public can potentially one day, use. It's amazing.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if this is a similar the brain is responding in a similar way that it responds to psychedelics, and if there's some parallels there, because that's often very healing.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a lot of side effects with most psychedelics, and so it would be nice to have something that was cleaner. And it sounds like anesthesia might be possibly a way to look at that.
Yeah, and if you think about, like, imagine if just a couple extra minutes was built into, say, the recovery process, and as people are coming out of anesthesia, imagine if we could, that transformative moment. What if we could take advantage of that time with all the people who are, going in for surgery,
Right.
Post-traumatic growth is how it was described to me.
Absolutely. I have a dear friend who does Dreamwork. He's an anesthesiologist, and he's been on the podcast a few times, Dr. Darren Jacobak, and I'm definitely going to share this episode with him and see what his insight, because he works with dreams and he works as an anesthesiologist, and so he probably has witnessed some of this himself.
I'm so excited to see what happens next. I'm really closely following all their research. It's amazing.
Right. So the brain never sleeps. I have two possible lines of question going up in my mind. I'll just put them both out there, and you can choose. one is like, what's the most surprising thing you learned while researching this book? And the other one is, if the brain never sleeps, oh, well, while we're sleeping, what does it say about consciousness? And that consciousness, and that is that something like something as we're conceived, then the brain starts working like very soon when we become when
Right.
we're just a cluster of cells. I don't know. I'm not sure
So
really.
I'm so interested in that whole, yeah. So the idea of that there isn't that divide between waking and dreaming life.
Right.
So if we look at our thoughts and our experiences along this continuum, right? This 24-hour loop,
Mhm.
it gives me such a different, perspective on the realm of dreaming
Mhm.
and the realm of dreams, and how, you can have people from your past and experiences, and you get to revisit people and places and things, and how that impacts your waking consciousness. And it gives me such a different perspective. All of this research, I'm so grateful to have had this time, and all the time that everyone gave me to really understand this. And I'll never look at my dreams the same way again. That's for sure. It's
Right.
totally, yeah.
Right.
So that's sort of a neat way to look at it. Is
Uh-huh.
when it was explained to me that way, is that if you just look at it as this continuum, it gives you
Mhm.
such a different, gives me such a different perspective on
Right.
dreams and why they're important. I mean, they're such a huge part of who we are.
Right. They really are. Well, you and I are on a similar mission to educate people about dreaming
Yes, yeah,
and to
for sure.
value that. So what comes next? Like you do science and health and various topics like that. Do you
Yes.
have something that you're looking to research next?
I'm fascinated by, like, when I think of dream stories, I'm really fascinated by waking stories. So memory, and
Mhm.
how basically stories across consciousness influence our identity and sense of self and who we really think we are. And it just really made me look at things differently when I looked at dreams. And I'm really interested to see how we choose the memories that help us understand who we are, help define us, and the plasticity, and how we can actually, hold on to the ways, like the science on the ways you can hold on to certain memories, like really strengthen memories, and then potentially rewrite or quiet other memories that, aren't potentially healthy for us.
Mhm.
So really looking at now stories across the continuum. So waking stories and memory. That's what I'm
Eh,
really interested in.
Interesting. I bet there'll be a lot of tie-in with sleep because memory reconsolidation is a big thing that sleep does.
Right.
And there are the associations that happen during the dreaming state, but I understand that even during the non-REM states, the slow wave sleep, there's a lot of forgetting, healthy forgetting during the non-REM parts
Right.
of sleep. And so maybe you'll be teaching us some more about some of those other states too.
Well, and I was so interested in Ken Paller's work, and targeted memory reactivation and in deep sleep, and how you can use sound to cue, say, let's say you learn something when you're awake, and while you're learning, there's a sound that's played, and then when that sound is played when you're in deep sleep, it might cue that and
Mhm.
strengthen that memory. That's so interesting. So if you
Mhm.
look at that, and imagine what we could do for, say, potentially for well-being, and what we want to choose to try and strengthen, right?
Mhm.
So
Right.
interesting.
Right, there's a way, as you're talking about memory, makes me think of the what they call reframing, and that,
Right.
because I can have the same memory and I can view myself as a victim of what happened, and I can be, feel the pain of that for my whole life, or I can reframe that same memory without changing the memory and think of myself as a survivor.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm so interested in, that, and then
Yeah,
how we choose certain memories almost as evidence of the story we're telling ourselves about
absolutely.
ourselves.
Yes,
And then so if we can shift that, yeah, I'm so interested in that.
I love that. All right. Well, this is Karen of Van Kampen. The webpage is karenvankampen.com. And the name of the book is The Brain Never Sleeps, Why We Dream and What It Means for Our Health. And I wonder if you have any last minute encouragements for our listeners you'd like to share.
Um, just there's so many ways that we can use our dreams to improve our well-being, our waking lives. And if we really pay attention and we tune into our dreams, there's so much that we can discover. And I think it's really important. I felt it was so important to realize that we are we can be empowered dreamers. We can rewrite, we can learn how to rewrite, say, upsetting dreams and nightmares. And, sometimes it can feel that we're really powerless to upsetting dreams, but it doesn't have to always be that way.
Wonderful. Thank you, Karen. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
You too. Thanks so much.
Okay. And thank you all for listening. The Dream Journal is produced at the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, and we are live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific at ksqd.org. I am Katherine Bell. You can contact me at experientialdreamwork.com or at Katherine@ksqd.org, Katherine with a K. Keep up with the shows on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and especially on YouTube by following at Experiential Dreamwork. I'd like to thank Rick Cleffel, engineer and music creator, audio editing by Suki Westling, phones by Eric Nelson. Intro and outro pieces are both by Mood Science. And tomorrow morning when you wake up, take a minute to write down your dream and bring it to the next Dream Journal.
Where you've come from is gone. You're going. Never existed. Where you are is no good. Is no unless you can.